Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now September 8th of 2020, and ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga, a lot of fans around the world have been very intrigued about the future of the Star Wars franchise by Disney, Lucasfilm, Bob Iger, and Bob Chaypek, and exactly what they are about to deliver to the Star Wars fans around the world. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the one thing about Disney Star Wars is that yes, we do know that they are now currently in a phase of desperation and damage control to really get the ball rolling again when it comes to this franchise. After all, we do know that throughout the years, as I like to call it, the Kathleen Kennedy era, a lot of fans really walked away from the franchise. I mean, this really is no joke. A lot of fans walked away from Star Wars after the release of The Last Jedi, and even especially after the release of The Rise of Skywalker as a movie, because of all the changes that Kennedy brought to the film. Let's not forget that she was the one directly responsible for deleting all of the major scenes that fans would have really loved and enjoyed, and I honestly believe that those actual scenes would have caused more repeat viewings among both hardcore and casual Star Wars fans around the world. Now, the thing about the Disney Star Wars franchise is that yes, we do know that Iger and Chaypek are doing everything in their power to bring Star Wars to the best ability that they can. They really want to make it just as successful, if not more successful, than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which, like I've said multiple times, that's going to take a lot of time and effort on their hands. It's going to take a high success rate to get it to such a level, and we'll have to wait and see exactly, whether or not Disney Star Wars can really hold up. I honestly do believe it's going to. I think it's going to have a great future, to be honest. We've seen a prime example of this with The Mandalorian Season 1, and now we got Season 2 coming out in just a little while from now on October 30th. Now, with that being said, of course, alright, with the Skywalker saga now over, both Disney and Lucasfilm have been developing their new Star Wars universe, as well as their new Star Wars trilogy of films for the Star Wars fans around the world. Now, it's noted that both Bob Iger and Bob Chaypek are hard at work on developing ways to reunite the fans around the world, where it said that many changes have been made to Lucasfilm behind the scenes in order to create a better and brighter future for the Star Wars community. However, it's noted that when Kathleen Kennedy was still in creative control over the Star Wars universe, she had cancelled many of George Lucas's projects for the franchise, including plans for multiple TV shows and even movies. However, most of the projects were in line with the TV shows for their planned streaming service at the time, which was unnamed. Now, it's described that before Kennedy lost her creative freedom, she cancelled all of George Lucas's projects that were initially greenlit for the future of Star Wars by Disney CEO Bob Iger. Now, this was what was included in the 10 years worth of Star Wars material that was supposed to release as soon as 2019, that all of the projects were cancelled at one point in time by Kathleen Kennedy, since the projects did not have enough identity politics and did not promote activism and was not really in line with the woke culture that George Lucas wanted to steer away from. So keep in mind, guys, this was a time most likely before or after Solo: A Star Wars Story, where George Lucas had an entire library's worth of Star Wars TV shows that were pretty much greenlit by Bob Iger, the Disney CEO at the time. And what he was doing was he was giving George a shot to use all those projects to meet Kathleen Kennedy and to actually make them happen at home on television, on Disney+, and those were actually canceled because Kennedy eventually witnessed or saw that George was steering away from creative control from Kathleen Kennedy. He was actually taking what she wanted to do away. So essentially, this did not include activism, it did not include in identity politics or any of that woke era stuff that Lucas wanted to, pretty much exclude from his projects. And it's one of the main reasons as to why Kennedy decided to really pretty much cancel all of those one by one. Now, George's pitches were initially accepted by Disney CEO Bob Iger, since Iger held great regret of what happened with The Last Jedi by director Rian Johnson. Now, the TV shows that Lucas had greenlit before Kennedy actually lost her control were explained to be a Boba Fett TV series, a show featuring the Knights of Ren, the Old Republic villain Darth Bane and his TV show, as well as a show featuring a young Palpatine and Darth Plagueis in the mix that took place before Episode 1, as well as a Crimson Dawn series featuring Darth Maul, just to name a few. All of those projects at one point in time were greenlit and then canceled by Kathleen Kennedy around the beginning of 2018, where she instead initiated her own lineup of TV shows that promoted more activism and identity politics. Once The Rise of Skywalker released is when Bob Iger decided to make a major change to Lucasfilm and created a plan with new CEO Bob Chaypek to bring back many of George Lucas's original plans for the TV shows that Kathleen Kennedy canceled some years ago. If it weren't for Kathleen Kennedy, those shows would have actually been released during the years of 2020 through 25 on Disney Plus and are now being either reworked or changed into something new by George Lucas, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni. So keep in mind is that these shows that were canceled were from, not so long ago, before Kathleen Kennedy was still in creative control. She still had creative power. And it just goes to show you exactly what Kathleen Kennedy did to the Star Wars universe behind the scenes. Basically, the pattern was like this, is that after The Last Jedi released, Bob Iger had a lot of problems with what was happening to Star Wars. So he met up with George Lucas, they initiated this plan to release a small series of TV shows on Disney Plus, or at the time, they were still trying to figure out the official name of the streaming service. And they actually had those shows lined up, all greenlit and planned, until Kathleen Kennedy saw them and figured that this was not the way to go. It was not promoting her agendas. It was not promoting what she wanted to do with Star Wars. And so she convinced Bob Iger that it just was not going to work. Hence why you also saw a lot of her lineup of TV shows coming out at one point in time before those two were also canceled around the summer of 2018, I would say more so. All thanks to Bob Iger really convincing Kennedy to drop those titles. And of course, when we look at everything related to George Lucas now, thankfully a lot of his ideas are being reworked and put back on the table. Now, the Boba Fett series is actually said to be one of the projects that Disney is actually considering to bring back after Kennedy decided to cancel it some years ago, and that this will serve as a spin-off of The Mandalorian. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are not only working on a large Star Wars universe, but also on a microverse within the Mandalorian setting, where other shows will be made that are specifically catered to the Mandalorian character, where Kennedy canceling those shows cost Disney as a company millions of dollars, and also brought Disney into a setback when it came to Star Wars television. Lucas, as of now, is on a mission to bringing back those canceled projects to Disney Plus in the most accurate ways as possible for the fans to enjoy around the world. So, like I've said before in the past, when we think about it this way, Lucas, Favreau, and Filoni, these are pretty much the makers of Star Wars right now. We've got the original creator Lucas, we've got a pioneer such as Jon Favreau, the first person to actually develop Star Wars into a live-action TV show, and we got Dave Filoni, the first person to bring in animated Star Wars material for Star Wars, right? So, we have all these three creators that really brought something new to the table. Like I say, George Lucas, Favreau, and Filoni are really going to reshape Star Wars as we know it. They're really going to try to make it as best as possible. But it really does make you go nuts just thinking about it, of how Kathleen Kennedy really canceled all of George's ideas that were initially greenlit and all planned out and set to release and set to go into production, and that she actually took it over with her own lineup of shows before those two were also canceled and are now being replaced with what George originally wanted to do and what he had talked about with Bob Iger at the time some years ago. So it really was an up, down, and an up cycle of production of these TV shows for Disney Plus. You had where George had more power, George lost power, Kathleen Kennedy took over, Kathleen Kennedy lost power and lost her creative control. Now George is back in action, taking back what he deserves. So I think that we really are on the right path to really having as much Star Wars material as possible that's going to be as authentic as it can be. And I think a lot of fans are going to be very excited about what's to come by George, Jon, and Dave. I really do. I think that a lot of fans, after they see The Mandalorian Season 2 and what they really have prepared, it's going to be quite a ride. So with that being said, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Night alone, we hear them once again.